How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
Drama. So much drama at the Ekana Stadium in Lucknow. But well done first and foremost to the Super Giants, to Shardul Thakur and to Avesh Khan for ensuring that the score they got at half-time, which we thought was above par, proved to be so. Lucknow Super Giants prevail. Mumbai Indians fall short in a chase that they thought they had life in for a long time in that innings. They only added the spiciest of drama towards the end when Tilak Varma, one of India's highly rated batters, had to be retired out. All that and more as Avesh got the better of Pandya towards the end. On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. Mark Boucher, who could have been at that Mumbai Indians dugout or on this couch over here. I'll ask him what he prefers in a moment. Sanjay Bangar saw that game. Dustin Silgardo will dig up all the relevant data and numbers and facts that speak to this game. But are you just delighted that it's not the dressing room that you have to make the call in, but out here now try to make sense of the call, Mark?
Yeah, it would be a tough one in the dressing room, let's be honest. I thought that Mumbai Indians, they batted well throughout the whole innings. Just unfortunately for them at the back end, they couldn't get the ball away. Whether that was, well, we know it was some very good bowling towards the back end by LSG. I mean, they've had one blips their first game, and they obviously learned from that. So their tactics were really good, and the execution was even better. So, yeah, it would be a tough pill to swallow in the Mumbai Indians dressing room at the moment.
Yep, Sanjay Bangar. I want to first talk about Lucknow Super Giants and the Shardul Thakur over, which could have changed the game entirely. But he's gone for what, 5 singles and a 2 in that over? Replacement player and all that. But how good was that over?
Excellent, and not only that particular over, but the over which preceded that of Digvesh Rathi. Both those overs were absolutely critical, and Shardul, for all you know, he's always known for those cutters, but bowling those Yorkers under pressure to both the batters was indeed phenomenal. So again, Shardul continues to surprise with his performances under pressure.
Digvesh Rathi's 1 for 21 of his 4 in a 400-run game.
He's top 10 for economy rates this season. He's 7th, I think, with just 7.5 across the season, outperforming Ravi Bishnoi by a significant amount. So he's kind of taken, I mean, he's repaid the faith they've shown in him by naming him in the 11 and not Bishnoi.
Yeah, I mean, 3 overs for 10. Just that over went for 11. Everything later. First, the retired out. The first retired out of this season. And Tilak Varma, of all people, the timing of it will raise questions. And let me get your reactions on how it impacted the game. Sanjay.
I don't really think that it impacted the game in any way. Retiring him, had he been retired slightly earlier, that could have had an effect of how much had to be gotten in the last over or so. But what it does is that Santner got what, 2 balls to face or 2?
Yeah.
And maybe even Tilak would have got maybe a couple of that particular delivery. So it wasn't a Pollard was walking in or something like that. So what you do is that you clearly are sort of putting down one of your top players, and Tilak would be devastated with that.
Yeah,
Mark.
Yeah, look, Tilak actually played a decent role with his partnership with Surya. You'd expect him with his talents and that to be able to, up his tempo. Obviously, it just wasn't happening for him. I think they bowled really well at him. He maybe could have taken a couple of options, moved around the crease a bit more. I mean, that'll be a conversation that Polly will probably have with him at a later stage. But, yeah, I don't think it had impact on the game. If there was someone coming behind him, they might have done it earlier. They backed him to try and get his tempo up a bit. Unfortunately for him, it didn't happen. And I do think, that this could potentially have a couple of issues later on in the competition for him. There's going to have to be some good conversations to get him back on board and getting his confidence up again.
I mean, just the timing of it. Because that was the penultimate ball or rather the last ball of the penultimate over. You needed, what at that time, 20 odd of 7, I think it was.
24 of 7.
24 of 7. So even if we are to assume that they could have had a Hardik Pandya taking the strike in the last over situation, which they did, the pros and cons of taking the decision at that moment I mean, what do you sense would have been the thinking behind it?
Look, I guess you probably think, I'm trying to think as a coach now, and you think of the situation, and you got to be there in that moment to make those calls. And you probably feel that they've hit their lines and lengths to Tilak, and he's got no answer for it. You've basically got to free it off the last ball. Hardik was probably going to face all the balls in the last over in any case, and you need a boundary. Sending Satner in as well, maybe he thought that they were going to change their length to him, maybe go into the wicket, which might have been a hit that maybe came off. Looking at it now, it didn't come off. As we said, I don't think at that stage it made a big impact in the game. If he had hit a length ball for 6, Satner, then you might have looked at it and gone, well, okay, great call. So, yeah, I think they gave him enough chance to try and up his tempo. Unfortunately for him, it didn't happen on the nights. There might be a couple of things that need to be said to get that youngster's confidence back up and running again.
I'm just trying to think of whether this has reached a stage of being normalized, the concept of the retired out. Whether it's something that was discussed maybe not only this season, but perhaps even last, where this could happen and don't worry about it. Is there any possibility, or is it still when it happens?
It's happened before.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's happened like this. I mean, it's one thing Ashwin retiring out and you getting a Hetmeyer, I think. That's, okay, Ashwin sent up to do a role and then him coming out. But here you've got somebody who was India's in-form T20 player just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And he's being retired out for somebody who's a bowling all-rounder, bowling first all-rounder. As Sanjay said, it's not like it's Russell or Pollard where they're one of the best 6-hitters in the game. Santner's a very capable batter, but he's not necessarily someone known for hitting the first ball for 6 when he comes into bat. And like I said, Tilak, his stocks were so high just a few months ago. And for him to go from there, I can't think of another player this high profile. I think Sai Sudarshan was retired out once, but again, that's...
Was he retired out? Did he sort of eventually... We were talking about whether he should be.
No, that was one game. I think he might have been, but... but I can't think of anyone this high profile who's been retired
I think
out.
the larger concern is the innings also itself. At a time where Surya was finding ways to keep them keep the asking rate within check, and Namandir has played a blinder, Hardik's come in and carried that momentum. But what is it that seems to add to the struggles of Tilak, the batter, in this innings today, Sanjay?
I felt he didn't really employ the reverse sweep that much to the leggies, because the bowlers who were bowling leg spin, but obviously angling across to him, and that's his go-to shot. So if he had struck one of those, or at least put pressure, no doubt there was a fielder, but you can certainly look to target either side of that backward point fielder right on the boundary line. So he probably didn't go to his best shot against those type of lines. That may have cost a couple of boundaries, and if you add a couple of boundaries to that score, it becomes a 25 ball 33 rather than a 25 ball 25.
I think it's important to note that one innings doesn't define you as a player.
Yep.
I mean, Tilak Varma is an incredibly talented young cricketer, and he's performed really well, and that's probably why we are sitting here talking so much about him. You talk about the high-profile player that he is. Secondly, he was trying to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, he's probably trying too hard. Sometimes you try so hard, it's like quicksand. The harder you try, the more the sand, the mud grabs you. I agree. I just think he's just got to go look at his options on this particular wicket. There's certain times when bowlers are landing Yorkers at you. Get down on one knee and get underneath the ball somehow. And he's got that shot in his armoury. Didn't perhaps come out tonight. Maybe he didn't feel comfortable doing it. One would have to speak to him and find out exactly what is going through his head and all that type of stuff. But yeah, it's quite difficult to judge a player with so much talent and who's done so well on one knock.
Yeah, just to break it down, 23 balls, at least according to our scoring team, we've recorded 11 boundary attempts, or 11 aggressive shots from those 23. So as Mark says, he's trying to hit the ball. Every second ball, he was going for the boundary, just not connecting. It's not like he played a bunch of defensive shots. It's just, it wasn't coming off.
One of those days, and you're indeed right. Sai Sudarshan, in fact, ironically, it was against Mumbai Indians in the second qualifier in Ahmedabad.
My memory is not that
couple
bad,
of seasons
That's
back.
why I remember it.
You remember it?
That's why I remember it.
Yeah, even at times, like we had a game at Wankhede, it was a day game, and Faf batted through the innings, or most part of the innings, and he was literally cramping up. And every time we was sort of, pulling him out, he was hitting a boundary. So then he eventually got out. But the key thing is the timing. It's not necessarily the quality of player who is retired. It doesn't really go against the pedigree and anything of that sort, or damages his reputation. It's just the timing, and that's where I felt that the timing of the retirement was probably not right from Mumbai Indians.
Let's take some questions, and there'll be plenty who try to understand this better on our live YouTube. I think I'll try and summarize quite a few comments on the situation, the Tilak retiring out. One of them is, how does that decision actually take place? Would it have been Hardik, the captain, in the middle? Would it have been the dugout? Could there have been anything of Tilak, the batter himself, saying it's not happening? How do you sense it ought to have happened or might have happened?
One doesn't know. You know, was it Tilak? I'm not too sure. You know, you'd like to think in the dugouts it'd probably be a conversation between Mahela and Polly. You know, Polly being the batting coach, and maybe, you know, one or two of the senior players around them as well. I mean, those are the guys, the leadership within the dugouts, and that's who you'd expect to make those big decisions. But one doesn't know. We haven't had feedback from after the game.
Yeah. How do you? If you have to speculate, how do you sense it would have gone down? Surely from the dugout is my guess, or could the captain in the middle have had a say in this?
I thought maybe Surya, because Surya was batting with him for the better part of the innings, and you also saw Surya very close to Mitch Santner at one point in time. So the way he got out, his probably body language after getting out, clearly you can sense the desperation of, you know, not finishing off the game, and he could have been the one who could have floated the idea to the management, and it could have happened that way.
I'll just get you informed of Hardik's comments immediately after the game. He's just spoken, and on the retired out he says, we needed some hits. Tilak was not getting those. In cricket, some of those days come when you try but they just don't come. You play good cricket. I like to keep it simple. Take better calls, be smart in bowling, take chances in batting. It's a long tournament. You get a couple of wins and get into rhythm. So he's not giving us too much there, but he is saying it just wasn't his day. So, right, let's take some more questions on this. Shardul. Sri Charan says, what great bowling from Shardul. Somehow he seems to have come with even more focus after the setbacks. You can't help but think, knowing Shardul Thakur, that not being picked at an IPL auction and whatnot, it must have just given him a little more fire to come in.
And being out of the reckoning for India also. I mean, it's been a difficult few months for him. So
What do you sense about Shardul's new coming in this season?
See, he's always been a trier, and I mean, he's been around for a long time now, because 2014 was the first time he was picked up by Punjab, and after that he's played literally all the seasons of IPL. So a very seasoned campaigner, and has gotten better as an all-rounder, made a name for himself. But what I liked, again, I would like to repeat myself, that his execution of Yorkers, never have I seen him bowl that particular delivery in a match so often and getting it right all the time.
Yep.
do you think that maybe, you know, in Test cricket he was being looked at, as you said, a bit like an all-rounder? Do you think that in a way kind of hampered him and made him focus more on his batting? And now, of course, he's been getting runs in Ranji as well. But do you think he's now just saying, you know what, I'm a bowler first, which I always was, and that maybe is helping him?
I don't really think so, because the type of player that Shardul is, he's always going to be India's fourth seamer, probably in overseas conditions. I don't think he can, as a pure bowler, play in a home Test match. So if you're looking at building a team and under like conditions, for home conditions you might not pick Shardul, but in an overseas Test match you certainly want to have players with those skill sets.
He seems like a coach's dream. He's one of those guys who, you know, he'll do his homework. He knows exactly what fields he wants to, and he bowls towards those fields as well. He's not like someone who's going to go and make his own plans and, you know, set fields and then try double bluff here, double bluff there. And that's exactly what he did tonight. He just ran in with a couple of simple plans, set the field, and the ball went to his field.
Interesting. Shardul Thakur, he has many plans when he plays, and today he was outstanding. Let's take some more questions. This one from SBM says, the retired out should be a strategical thing that should be used more in the game. It's purely strategical. It doesn't mean Tilak is any less of a batter. It just wasn't his day. Do you sense that's one good way of looking at it? And in general, that maybe more teams should look to employ the retired out option?
Yeah, well, I said the other day as well, is that I think the game of T20 has become very much different segments. So you can play the power play, then 7 to 10, and then 11 to 15 or 16, and then the death overs. So, you know, you want certain players, and you select that like that as well, batting in those situations. And sometimes, you get a guy who is maybe a death specialist, but you get an opener in that situation, that could be the perfect time to say, listen, this is not your expertise. We've got a guy in here who strikes at 300 at the back end, where you only maybe strike at 170. Come out, let's get our main guy in here.
So if Mark is floated that idea, then is only one substitute the right way to go, or could there be more substitutes in the T20
No,
game?
there can't be more substitutes.
Oh, man. Right. Hanish, how do you sense this will affect Tilak Varma? He does have some friends and senior people around him. Well, perfect question for his former coach.
Yeah, well, look, I think that he's still young, and yes, it will have an effect on him. But he's right in saying that he's got some good teammates around him. I'm sure that the management will be very aware of the possibilities of how his attitude can go and how it might be hurting him. I got no doubt that they'll sit him down tonight. They'll cheer him up a bit, say to them that you're still a great player. Unfortunately, it wasn't your night, and just explain it how I think we're trying to explain it to the public out there as well.
Sure. Ajay says it's not fair to only blame Tilak for the loss, because even Surya and Hardik, even Surya after he was settled, it wasn't as easy to hit the big shot at the end. Is that fair today, Sanjay?
Not an easy wicket to bat on, and we could sort of had that conversations when in the last 5 overs or the last 4 overs, MI just conceded 40 runs and picked up 3 or 4 wickets in that particular phase. So it's always going to be difficult with a older ball, and that's where some of the bowlers really actually did a lot of work, which was in a way under par performance from Bishnoi, under par performance from Akashdeep, but the other 3 bowlers were simply outstanding.
This is another one from Kulotamani. I'm just checking how many wickets they lost. They lost 5, right? He says even though Rohit's out of form, the fact that without Rohit, this batting order has Santner coming in at 7, it doesn't scream of the depth that you'd want with the impact sub in place. So
well, to be fair, I mean, they had Raj Baba today who they didn't use. So Santner was technically the 8 who's moved up to 7. So they did have 8 batters.
Do they look light on batting? This is supposed to be the strongest batting.
They had Deepak Chahar as well. So I don't think that they are actually...
I think if you look at Emma's batting, I think Namandir is throwing a cat in amongst the pigeons there as well, because he batted really well tonight. Even losing a couple of wickets around him, he went out there and he still dominated. He sort of, in a way, cancelled out Mitch Marsh's innings as well. So, I think that could pose some positive headaches for the management, with him being in some decent form, and maybe up front there. Are you going to play around with Will Jacks a bit? Do you get another international in? I think these are the things that might get discussed.
All right. Well, let's look at other points. X Factor here says, MI have acknowledged Tilak's struggles, and that's why they sent Naman at 3 and swapped him at 5. I wonder what you make of that, because it looked like Namandeep was great, but there are plenty of comments here that also say Tilak should be at 3 if you want to get the best out of him. What do you make of the tactics, batting order today?
Yeah, I don't think that that's the reason. I think that Namandeep has batted at 3, for quite some time. Quite a few games for MI, and really done well there. With Rowe obviously picking up an injury very late. Without messing around too much of the batting order, they probably would have had batting meetings, and Tilak's used to batting with Surya down at the bottom. He's probably better suited, being a more experienced player batting down there. I think that they just wanted to try and make as fewer changes as possible.
I think that's coming more because MI have always used Tilak, as you said, as a number 5. It's just that India had moved him to number 3. That's why a lot of people think maybe that's the spot for him.
It also makes sense to have a left-hander out there in the mix, in the middle order.
Against the spin.
So this is another interesting one. It's just a different way of, different dimension to this conversation. Ashish saying, is it sometimes harder for a batter to come in as the impact sub, having not been in the field and sort of warmed up with the game?
Yeah, I would say. You haven't really been a part of the game. There's a couple of legal, illegal rules that you can do. I mean, we always used to pull off PC, right at the end, just say he's cramping a bit, just to get the impact player on and get him running around on the field a bit, so you sort of get the pace of the game and also get your body temperature up a bit. So there are ways that you can get your impact on.
Yeah, I sense it's also harder for a younger player, seasoned player like a Marsh or a Head, or even Rohit. I can understand lots of experience.
Well, we raised the issue at the start of the game as well. We said that it was quite a surprise that Tilak was on the bench, being a decent fielder as well.
All right. Ajay says Digvesh should be the player of the match. He took the Namandir wicket, who was looking unstoppable at that point, an economy of just 5.2. But yeah, let's just get into more detail about the skill and craft of Digvesh Rathi. Dustin rightly says he's out-bowled Bishnoi, Sanjay. I think it's pretty clear.
He did, and one of the pitch maps indicated where he was landing the ball. So he was using the surface really well into the surface. Didn't really try anything in the fuller length. So that has been his strength and a great temperament as well with the skill set. So he's not just angling the ball in. He may give that batsman a little bit of a doubt that he would probably take it away as well. So all in all, a wonderful spot by the LSG management as well.
He looks like a leg spinner, but he bowls carom balls also. I mean, the one he got Namandir with, I think, is a carom ball. So it's just a strange, he's like a mix of, someone was saying he has Imran Tahir's hair, Mushtaq Ahmed's action, and Sunil Narayan's variations. And then of all people, he's got Hasaranga and Kesrick Williams' celebrations. Somehow.
He's got a bit of Glenn McGraw in him as well. He's quite aggressive towards the batters. He just needs to calm that down a bit.
He's still writing letters.
Yeah, he's writing letters to the match referee.
Oh, man. Yeah, but brilliant. It's also, I think, fine from the Delhi Premier League and the fact that they've trusted with him. So well done to the LSG management. I think it's important to come back to the first innings too, on how they managed to get an above par score clearly on what was still a tricky surface, wasn't it? So there are some comments here on Mitch Marsh and Markram, but you sense a lot of credit goes today to the way those two overseas batters batted?
Yeah, we've been speaking about batting and batsmanship, and I think they got it right today. Marsh went out and he took the power play on. He knows that that's his role. I thought Markram played a very good knock as well, keeping the ball on the ground. I think that if you have a look at the stats, from 7 to 15, LSG outbatted MI, which got them behind the game. So they must have done something very well in that stage of the game. Yes, they lost a couple more wickets, but they certainly maximised that period of the game.
Which of those two stands out for you, the two innings and the more sort of significant between Markram and Marsh?
I would pick a third innings as well.
Okay.
I wouldn't really go to the two innings. I would go and pinpoint the impact that Ayush Badoni is having.
Sure.
Very important innings of maybe 30 odd. But he, along with Markram had the luxury of playing through the innings a little bit.
Yeah.
But he
started in the middle and
he took the pressure off. Markram.
30 of 19 at a strike rate of nearly 158.
So that was indeed remarkable. If you really look at both the teams, Surya did what a Markram did. At the top, Namandir did what a Marsh did, and that's where the difference between Tilak and Ayush Badoni.
He manufactured 3 really good boundaries of mid-Santner. You look at a game of fine margins, it's 1 or 2 more balls, isn't it, that you could have hit for 4 or that a batters use great skill to hit for 4. I guess that's the difference in close games. There's another one here I saw a little while back on the lack of MI's new ball bowlers making inroads. It's only had the one home game. But Chair and Bolt, I think today, it set the pace for the LSG innings. And I guess when they picked Chair and Bolt, they got to get inroads almost every game. Is there anything you're noticing that's lacking in the new ball opening pair?
It's quite difficult to have a go at those two because, Bolty, he's full of experience. They should have had a wicket early doors.
Oh, yes. That's a big moment now, isn't it?
The massive moment in the game. Rickelton didn't hear anything. The bowler didn't hear anything. So there's your one wicket that you're searching for. But yeah, I mean, you can't write Bolty off. He's going to get conditions that go his way, and he's going to nip 1 or 2 out. I think Booms is the big one. They're
missing
Emma must be licking the lips for him to come back into the equation. He adds a massive value to the team.
Yeah, Ujjwal's making that point that in the absence of Bumrah, you have to give Deepak Chair overs at the death, not his strength. And perhaps that is also proving to be a concern here, Sanjay, that their bowling is not quite as incisive away from home at least?
I don't really think bowling towards the end phase of the innings has hurt them tonight.
All right.
It was more probably bowling in the first 6 wherein they considered in excess of 60 runs. Had they considered a little bit lesser runs, maybe 204 could have been 190.
I think Chair only gave 8 runs in the over that he bowled in the death. I think he went more in the power power play.
Yeah. So, slightly expensive at the end and only ended up bowling what, I think 2 or 3 overs today?
Yeah, so he didn't bowl that badly at the death. Yeah, it wasn't that much the death. I think it was the power play where he gave 15. So.
All right, some questions on Pant, both the captain and the batter. Let's get into that. Let's get into the captaincy aspect first, because you would have been under some pressure today. This It's clearly above par score, but tactically his use of Digvesh Rathi, there's some calls here about whether the Akashdeep selection was a good one or not. It did provide an early breakthrough, but what do you make of Pant, the captain?
He had limited resources and he sort of fitted them in quite nicely by not keeping Akashdeep towards the end, by keeping 2 overs of Avesh and 1 of Shardul, their most experienced bowlers in that particular phase, and keeping those overs of wrist spin as well and not afraid to use them later in the inning. So that really required courage. So on those aspects, I thought Pant did a really good job with the 5 bowlers that he had to operate.
On that point, there's some very nice, interesting comments here saying LSG should substitute someone else instead of Mitch Marsh. Maybe he could be a bowling option if need be.
He's not bowling.
Injured,
He's not bowling. He's injured.
Yeah, I think Nick Knight's mentioned a couple of times here that he's just said, I'm living the dream.
Now, just on Pant there, I think, you know, you can always judge a captain when he's under pressure, and he was under pressure tonight. And he made some quality calls at the back end there. I thought, you know, some brave calls to bowl his number 1 spinner. When is it? The 16th, the 17th over? And then getting Thakur bowling the most important over of the game.
The 18th over for Rathi.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's quite dangerous. But he backed him because he had been bowling well, and the bowler responded. And he executed.
I can tell you, Digvesh Rathi has been named player of the match today, which I think is a terrific call. Sometimes a 1 for 21 doesn't scream on the scorecard, but perhaps he's had a telling blow in the outcome of the game. Are you happy with that choice?
Very happy because much deserved, well deserved, and he's been impressive. He's been the standout spinner for LSG, and it will only, I think, challenge Ravi Bishnoi to step up and work on his bowling skills a little bit more.
Like that?
Yeah, I agree. I think there were quite a few innings that are pretty similar. You know, you talk about Marsh, Markram, Namanti, Surya. I think he had the biggest impact on the game. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Right. I'll just come back to Pant the batter, because that'll be a conversation that'll be recurring with every innings. It's not looking prettier. What do you sense could be a way for LSG to tackle it?
I think there are 2 ways. Maybe because he isn't really keen to go up the order. That's what we can now clearly make of. And LSG is now hell-bent on playing their 4 overseas batters. I don't really see that changing during the course of the tournament. So could he maybe drop himself down a little bit and let Ayush come up and bat at that number? That is one way to just free him up a little bit, because at the moment, if he goes in a similar mindset in the next match as well, what he's going to try and do is that maybe play 8-10 balls and that might not be the tempo that which LSG want to bat in that particular phase. So better for him to maybe drop down a little bit down the order.
Yeah, I'll go with that as well. I think that he's coming in, and when you're out of form, you find unbelievable ways to get out. Whether it's just glancing one down leg, or you got a leading edge today. So sometimes just going into a situation where you can actually just give it a bash. I think it suits his style of cricket as well. And also, he's got no choice other than to just go out and hit it, rather than have to work the ball around a bit. Maybe that's his way of getting himself back into the tournament.
Yeah, I think we've brought up his numbers starting against spin in the middle, and it's clearly a tactic that opposition captains are using. We thought his best chances to open, but that's not changing now with Markram and Marsh getting the scores they have had. Right, thank you very much for sending those questions and comments. And there are some of you going on about what kind of changes can MI make to their team. Anything that we can scream out? I mean, Rohit will come in at some point, but barring that.
If Bumrah comes back, it's in place of Deepak, as well as if Rohit's back, then Raj Angad Bawa misses out.
Okay, straightforward. Wonderful choice for player of the match. I'm actually very pleased with that. So good job on whoever's picked that from the commentators. It's time for our rapid fire review. A thrilling game, really. Close game. Finally got it. And you all know how this works, gentlemen. So let's fire it away. Sanjay Bangar, first you. 1 for 21 for Rathi in a nearly 400-run game. What made Digvesh Rathi so difficult to score off?
His length, because on a pitch which didn't really offer that much of a bounce, it's always good to be slightly back of a length than fuller, and that's where he excelled.
Mark, was Suryakumar Yadav's wicket the turning point of the game?
Looking back at it, probably yes. If Surya had batted throughout the whole match, I've got no doubt MI would have won.
All right. Dustin, was it the right move to retire Tilak Varma out? Could it have been done earlier?
I don't think it impacted the game, but I wouldn't have retired him out. I don't think it was the right call.
All right. I'll let the two of you jump in on that as well. Tilak Varma, right decision at that time?
I don't agree with that decision because too late. If that call had to be made, if they were really concerned, had to be made earlier.
Mark?
Yeah, I'd probably have to go with that as well. We don't know the conversations that happened, but you would think that if it was to be made, it probably had to be made an over or two earlier.
All right. Sanjay, back to you. What worked for Hardik Pandya, the bowler today, compared to the other pacers?
Using the short ball well and not necessarily the fast short ball, but the slow ball bouncer, and then obviously using the longer side of the square really well.
All right. Mark, 350s in 4 games coming back from injury. What's clicking for Mitchell Marsh for Lucknow?
I think technically he's very sound. He's hitting the ball nice and straight. And he's obviously hits the ball very cleanly. He's just in good form, and you can see that his blade's coming down well. He's got great bat angles, and he looks like he's hungry to perform as well.
All right, and finally, all three of you can take this. Was Hardik Pandya's point of entry in the 17th over too late, given the equation?
I don't think they had much of a choice unless they retired somebody out, because Tilak was always going to be your number 5 and he came in much earlier. So
Sanjay?
That's the finisher's role. So there's never a perfect entry point. There was a point in time wherein Dinesh Karthik, in my coaching experience, there was always a debate like what is his exact entry point? Is it 13.4 or 14.1? And what happened if a wicket fell at 13.3? So you can always argue that. So there's never a perfect entry point.
Mark?
Yeah, look, I mean, looking back at the game now, you probably say, he could have maybe gone in a bit earlier, but you have to give Tilak the opportunity to try and up his tempo, as we've been speaking about, and unfortunately it didn't come off for him tonight. So having looked back at the game, it would have been probably nice for him to have got Hardik in a touch earlier.
yeah, I mean, the earlier wicket fell, I think, much earlier, the 3rd wicket, so he couldn't have come in then. So
Okay, I can quickly just tell you also that Digvesh Rathi, speaking as player of the match, is saying, I'm really enjoying it. My bowling is such that I like to take wickets. I saw Sunil Narayan bowl, and since then I like bowling. He's also said, I want to make my mindset more attacking like Narayan, like he takes the pressure for the team. That he also speaks about the choice of ball to Namandir.
So that dispels all the theories which Dustin just propagated.
Yeah.
no, he's spoken before about kind of modelling himself a bit on Narayan. He is known for that. But I just think his action looks a little bit his run-up looks like Narayan, but there are other parts of, there's lots of different
He
bowlers.
just hides the ball.
There's a little bit of Virat Kohli also. In,
Wow,
the hands.
wow, yeah. Just
Well
put that
done.
up on
Have you
social.
seen my bowling action? There's a bit of me in there as well.
You know what? The last bit he said, Rathi, I can't end before taking it in. I asked Rishabh whether we should have a mid-wicket or not. We ended up not having the mid-wicket. So he, as in Namandir, looked to play there and he was bowled. I think there's a lot of personality to this bowler, which might, it's not the last we're hearing from him. Okay, that's where we wrap it. Thank you very much to Sanjay Bangar and Mark Boucher, Dustin as well. Mr. Bangar, I think we'll give you a well-earned break from the couch, but we'll have you back on it soon. I believe you're traveling to Mullapur.
Yes, I
shortly.
am. Yes.
I wish you a pleasant journey and
Thank
look
you
to
so
have
much.
back soon. Mark, you're going nowhere. Long day for you tomorrow. Let's get more off you, Mark Boucher. Dustin, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of the conversation as well. On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. Double header. Tomorrow, big game for the Super Kings. And they take on, of course, the Delhi Capitals, who are yet to face defeat. That's the afternoon game of the Chepauk. Build up to that just before the toss. So do join us then. Good night.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.